Hey y'all, do you ever wonder how in the world you're going to get your children to enjoy outdoors and nature journaling and all the aspects that are brand new to your Charlotte Mason homeschool? If so, I have some great tips for you today on the Charlotte Mason Way Show, and I hope that you tune in and interact with me as we go along. Let me get started today with sharing with you what the topic is for the show and helping you walk through it. So, today we're going to be talking about 3 ways to get kids to enjoy nature journaling. This is something that is dear to our family. This is something we have done almost from the very beginning in 1999. And boy, can I tell you what, we have some pretty awesome keepsakes because of this process that we do. So, let me talk to you a little bit about what these 3 ways are and help you to understand that a nature journal can work from even before as early as age 5 all the way through high school. And so this is something that you want to kind of lean into and pay attention because it does in fact make a difference with your children of all ages. And it is something that you can do together as a family. Okay, so let's move into and see, this is fun because I am having to figure out the screens today. This is going to be fun. All right. So there we go. All right. So today's show, we're going to discover 3 proven ways to add nature journaling to your homeschool. And you're also going to learn about 3 Charlotte Mason thoughts about nature and what that looks like with getting your children outside. And then there's this one most important aspect to enjoying nature study. So I hope you're excited about this because trust me, your kids are going to love it. So in today's show, there is a truth that I want you to walk away with. And that truth is when you give the gift of nature to your children, they develop a desire to capture their findings in their own way that allows them to cherish their time in the outdoors. And that particular way of capturing is called nature journaling. Charlotte Mason actually called it nature diaries, and there was 2 things that she had included in a nature diary. She had the nature calendars of first, when the children were able to identify the first leaf and the first bird and the first egg and the first of that year. And then the second part was their nature diaries. But over the years, we have learned to call diaries journals. And so that is what we're calling them today, nature journaling. But if you've ever heard of nature diaries or calendars of first, you'll be excited about today's topic. Okay, so number 1 is you're going to want to get your kids excited about enjoying nature journaling by introducing it to them as in the way of nature studying being a game. Children always love games, and you can have them do some of the most tedious things if you turn it into play. For instance, if you turn on some music and you set the timer, you can get your house clean pretty quickly, even though it's a tedious chore. All of a sudden, that presentation of how it's a game turns more exciting to them. So if you're really struggling for your children to grab a hold of nature journaling, I want you to first start with nature study being a game. Is that, and you can't even get to the nature journaling if you can't enjoy the nature study, right? So get your focus there and help your children to understand how important it is to enjoy being outside and to be able to use the skills that they have in observation and to develop those skills. And I talked about those skills in the previous Charlotte Mason Way show. So you want to look back there if you don't know what those are. So discovery and exploration are natural igniters to a let me start over. Discovery and exploration are natural igniters. All of a sudden, I'm not able to speak. To a child's delight. Use them in nature study to get children observing the world around them. So what I mean by that is children naturally love to discover and explore. If you we're going to discover something new, they get real excited. If you tell them that we're going to go exploring, they get really excited. So using the terminology and understanding that you can naturally ignite your children's desire and enjoyment in something just by positioning it as a game and letting them know you're going to discover something and you're going to explore. And before you know it, they're going to be really on board with that first step to nature journaling, which is nature study. So let's see what Charlotte Mason said about this. So by and by, the others come back to their mother. And while wits are fresh and eyes are keen, she sends them off on an exploring expedition. Who can see the most and tell the most about yonder hillock or brook, hedge, or corpse? Sorry about that. So here's one thing I want you to understand. Charlotte Mason does not want you to take them into these things. She wants you to take them outside, but she wants them to be exploring. She wants them to be the one discovering. She wants them to be the ones who are totally the explorers. They're the ones that are doing the work. They're the ones that are digging for the things to observe, not necessarily digging, but they're looking for it out in the outdoors. And so she sends them off. Now, remind you, moms, we're supposed to be taking our children outside to teach them the right ways to go. And when they do have that, it might look a little different, but you want to teach them the habits of outdoors, right? And so to do that, you're watching them, but you're sending them. This is where we send them off to explore. And this is where the discovery and the exploration comes in to make nature study a game. It's a powerful way to really get your kids on board to that first step of nature journaling. So the next thing is call them nature detectives. I remember years and years ago when nature was so hard for me. Oh my goodness, it was the most tedious thing that I had to do as a city mom who still felt out of my element taking my kids outside. I felt like I had so much to do inside, and it was just too much for me to take them out. It was easier to send them out. And so during that time, I started to call them nature detectives. And, my youngest child really, at the time there, I only had two, he loved to be called a nature detective because he really was. He was exploring, he was discovering every day, many things in that day. And so calling your kids a title, a nature detective, really kind of brings that game of nature study into a whole other element for them. They almost feel like they have a duty or a passion now in what they're doing and processing as a family, and being able to just be a part of their world around them as they're just totally getting into this nature. And so explain to your children that a nature detective must investigate, gather correct information and precise details before drawing a conclusion about the object they are investigating. Now, if you think about those things, that's what nature study is, right? If you listen to my show last time, I talked to you about the 3 different steps that Charlotte Mason says are necessary for observation. And this is pretty much it in the way of actions, okay? So you want to send your nature detectives out to investigate. What is it that they're going to be able to explore and discover? And then they're going to gather the correct information. At this point, they're going to learn to pay attention and observe, to start being able to describe what they're seeing to you. And then the precise details are the way that they're able to discriminate the different features, to be able to tell what creatures they are. And then it's only through those 3 things, the investigation, the gathering the correct information, and the precise details, are then they're able to actually identify what it is that they've discovered, and through their exploration. And so these are how a child can become a nature detective. And once you have those skills in place, I'm going to tell you what, that next way makes it so much easier. And they take it upon themselves to be a nature detective anytime and every time they're outside. So this makes it a beautiful, easy way to transition, even if you're a city mom like me who struggled to get outdoors. Charlotte Mason's thought on this is, and she, meaning the mom, is training her children in truthful habits by making them careful to see the fact and to state it exactly without omission or exaggeration. So what we can tell our children is that when there is a detective who works to solve crimes or, what have you, they have to be very particular. They have to be careful to see the facts. They can't jump to conclusions. They have to be very detailed. And then they have to explain things exactly without omission or without exaggeration. And it's only through that careful habit of truth telling are you able to come to the fact of what you're finding in nature, what's being discovered. And so this is the beautiful way of guiding your children towards this nature detective and getting them excited about that game of nature study. Okay, so here's the third way. So nature detectives catalog their findings with the dates, locations, and the name of the objects. So what does this mean? So if a child were ever to watch any type of discovery or a detective show, they know that when a detective discovers something, they have a little notebook and they write what their findings are, the date they talked to the witness, the location, all the details about what was being observed, right? And in that, they catalog their findings, and that way they can go back and make their decision, right? So this is what a children's nature journal is to them. They're actually cataloging their findings. They're drawing pictures of whatever it is that they come across, and then they're going to put the dates on it. This becomes the calendar of firsts. This is when they see that the first time a tree is budding, the first time they see a tadpole, the first time they see a caterpillar or perhaps a catalyst or a cocoon. And next thing you know, they're starting to become very aware of the changing of seasons. They're becoming aware of the world around them, and they're putting the locations of where they're finding these things, whether it be in their yard, a park, or perhaps you're on vacation somewhere else in another state, and they're cataloging these particular things in their nature journal. And before you know it, it's going to become such an exciting thing for them, because now it's no longer a game to them. They're taking their nature detective role seriously. So you want to train your children to record their findings at least once a week. But Charlotte Mason actually says daily is what she expects. So if you can work towards daily, that's great. If you can't, once a week is better than nothing. And so if you can get your kids out daily, perfect. But here's the most important thing that I want you guys to know. Innumerable matters to record occur to the intelligent child. What this means is innumerable matters to record occur to the intelligent child. What this means is that a child will find an innumerable number of things to discover while they're outside, especially if you're observing those 4 to 6 hours of outdoor time. They're going to find tons of things that they are excited about, that they have discovered as a nature detective, and they're going to want to put them inside the journal. So limiting them to saying, oh, you only put one entry in, or, making them put a particular thing when maybe perhaps they delighted more on looking at the caterpillar or what have you. And that's what you want to make sure you're tapping into. So here's the most important aspect to enjoying nature study is to position the world as a place to be discovered by seeing with detecting eyes. You want your children to be discovering things with the eyes that are looking, right? And that's all a habit that's formed when you're outside and you're getting your children out to expose. What's one important thing that I also want you to understand is that Charlotte Mason does not want moms to tell children what to put inside their journal. This is their unique personal thing to them. This is something that they're going to cherish for life. This is something that they're going to want to put in time and time again and decide those things that are more dominant in nature that are important to them. So if you keep seeing them putting snakes in, what they're doing is they're learning the different distinguishing things that make one snake different than the other. So they're distinguishing and being able to put those different features inside. So you want to make sure that you're giving that completely to your child, letting them decide how many and how what goes inside the journal. So I love to hear your comments and questions for today. So start putting them into the comments while I go ahead and recap, and then I'm going to get in and chat with you guys. So to recap today's show, there's 3 ways that you can get your children really enjoying nature journaling. And the first is to make nature study a game. Turn it into an exciting time, not just a to-do thing. And then number 2, call them nature detectives. Let them understand what a role of a detective is, and that you as a Charlotte Mason mama understand that those roles line up perfectly with that of how to actually teach your children how to observe. You can get that teaching in the last show. And then number 3 is nature detectives catalog their findings. And once they understand that that's part of the description of their duties as a nature detective, it then becomes exciting to them and they enjoy nature journaling. And before you know it, you might find them nature journaling when you're not even expecting them to. They may pull it out multiple times a day because then they just get the enjoyment and they understand the benefits of it. So next week's show, I'm going to be telling you how to combine art with nature study. Charlotte Mason is very particular that art, the actual ways of how to draw, is not something that we pull into nature journaling. But because you've gotten your children excited about the nature journaling, you can actually think about how to pull in art as your nature study focus. It's a really good topic. I hope you join me with that. But let's get into the comments and see how I can answer your questions and say hello to you. Hi, Sarah from Texas, watching my first Charlotte Mason Way show. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here, and thank you for introducing yourself. I'd like to know what kind of topics y'all might have or questions you might have on this topic, but I will tell you this, that there is so much that I have seen in our children because of nature journaling. So it may seem a little daunting to you at first, but it's so worth putting an effort into it. And I will say this, if I have any Charlotte Mason high schoolers, moms in the mix right now, or watching on replay, that when your children get into high school, you have to understand that there has to be a bit of a shift because now you're requiring more of them. And so when we get into high school, I very much direct what goes into their journaling. And so we have a particular journal for every subject of science, and they have particular assignments that they have to put in there. Like when we're doing astronomy, they have to put the planets in there and the facts in there and stuff like that. If we're doing biology, they have to draw the body and the muscles and the skeleton and the different parts of the organs and the eyes. And it's a very detailed things that we do. But by the time they get in high school, they understand the benefits of journaling and they're really good at it. And so therefore it becomes an enjoyment to them. So, Sarah, what would you do if you have a child who doodles for fun after they have drawn what they see? So they make an entry, then just start doodling over their drawing. If you don't control the nature journal, do you guide or stop them at all? So we have always had drawers in our home. They love to sketch. In fact, my almost 26-year-old daughter, she still loves to sketch. She's been drawing. She works at Academy. She sketches the children's faces, and they're always lining up saying, "Me today, will you do me today?" So she's working through all of the students that she teaches. So she still sketches at almost 26. And so sketching has always been a very big part of our family. From the time they were like 4, I would get them the very cheap ones, the spiral sketch notebooks at Walmart. Very inexpensive. We still have them up in the attic. So they become keepsake. We would let them take them drawing. In fact, we had church in our vehicle this Sunday, and my 10-year-old's like, "Man, I should have brought my stuff to draw." So how I do that is we have a nature journal, and it's 100% focused on nature. And then we also have their sketchbooks. This is for fun. Anything that comes to their mind that they want to sketch. And so they have 2. They have their nature journal that has the purpose of 100% nature finds. And then the other one is sketching. So they know what can go in both. And sometimes, they get mixed up or they forget, they get in that mood and stuff. But the key to it is to get your children making records of what they see and is important to them. And if something all of a sudden comes in their mind and they're important, this is theirs. So if you find that once in a while, don't stress about that. What's important is that your child's sketching and they're enjoying it and they're delighting in it, and you never know where that's going to go. But always give them 2. one for their, their free sketching and one for their nature journal. Hello, Laura. My youngest were very excited to nature explore this past weekend when we visited Rib Mountain in our area. My oldest wasn't as keen on this. Do you think over time he'd be able to enjoy this? So I'm not sure how old your oldest is, but we started young for all of our children. So I've never had to have an older child start into it. What it might be is that a lot of time when older children are kind of like, nah, I don't want to try something new, is because they're not very confident in it. They might think that they're not very good at it. So what you might do for that particular child that's struggling is give them some basic art skills. So you're going to want to listen next show about how to bring nature or how to combine art with nature study, and help them to understand how to do different elements. I remember my perfectionist was my second child. He got so frustrated when we were working on drawing exactly what we see, which was our art time, not our nature study time, but we were using nature products, our nature objects. He was getting so frustrated because here I could draw so much better than he can. And so you have to tell your kids it takes practice and such. So getting your older children excited about drawing anything, making sure they have a sketchbook to draw whatever they delight in, whether it's cars or football or golf or whatever have you, that they're still sketching, right? They're learning the skills of sketching. And then you just start and say, you know what, I'm sorry, you have to find something to put in that's nature in it and it's a requirement. And eventually they'll enjoy it, especially as their skill gets better. There's not a child that doesn't like something when they can see that they're good at it. So usually it just requires that confidence build for a child to enjoy something. So spending some time there, which we'll cover next week, will help your child really get into enjoying this. Kelly, wondering if our backyard counts as nature or do we always need to leave and go to the woods? So nature study, Charlotte Mason does want us to get out every tolerable fine day, 4 to 6 hours, and not send our kids, but take them. And the purpose of taking them is to build those habits that they should make sure of what they can do and what they can't do outside. In that same concept, we have birds that come to our window. We're not getting outside and we're learning all different kinds of birds. That's how I started. That's how I got from being a city girl who about anything nature to now loving nature. And it was that first year that we spent studying birds. I didn't get out in the woods at all. It came to my window. But what you'll find is wherever you start, whether it be birds or what have you, that once you get there, you start to learn how to observe. And before you know it, you're more excited about going out in the woods. So start somewhere and then let it lead you to the bigger things. So, do whatever makes sense to you right now and embrace that thing. And that's why we have a suet feeder on our window and a pretty big feeder for songbirds. So we have quite a few. I don't know exactly how many different birds, but we have 3 different woodpeckers that come to our window, and we have probably 10 or 12 different varieties of other birds that are not woodpeckers. So we get a good variety. I have studied birds for 20 plus years now. So my youngest is getting really good at naming the names. He gets really excited when there's a new bird to identify. So start wherever it makes sense to you. And if that means pulling him into the window or just doing your backyard count, what you'll find is those skills are being built, and then you can start doing weekly walks in the woods and see where that takes you from there. But always celebrate those little movements forward. Nature study is better than none. So take that as well. All right, so you want to join me next week when we start talking about combining art with nature study. And again, I'm going to just stress this has nothing to do with your nature journal. That is completely child-led. You just require an assignment and let them decide what goes in it. And it's not about how it looks, but them getting good at putting their findings in. So we're going to talk about that next week, and I look forward to it. And then I have something very special coming up the week after. So you're going to want to be paying attention, and I look forward to sharing what that is next week on the show. Until then, Let me see this. Thank you. You're welcome, Laura. And thank you so much. Love studying birds. Do you have a bird identification book that you recommend? Oh, goodness, Kelly. I've bought the same book and I probably should buy another one 3 times. It's called the Smithsonian Field Guides. I absolutely love them. They're colorful. You get 1 bird per page. I just really love it. And you get all the details on 1 page. We have literally in our 20 plus years have beat up 2 books of these. They're in North America. So I'm not sure where you're located. But we have beat up these books really bad. But I probably should get a 3rd one soon just because we love the book. But Smithsonian is definitely our choice of field guides. And they have different ones. So we started with the birds and we added reptiles pretty quickly and trees and such. So add 1 a year if you need to. But, that one I really love. I looked at other ones, but this one was just so pretty with the colored pictures and the descriptions on every page instead of finding the picture and then having to go to a different page and find the description. I think that was Peterson's Field Guides. I did not like them at all. I like everything in one spot. It makes it easier for younger kids to learn. So if your kids are younger, definitely do that. They also have Fun with Nature, I think is the series of books that they also have if you have really little ones. But we started out with adult field guides. We really did. And my kids were gifted with the Fun with Nature. So, we had those both, but we definitely use the adult field guides. They work amazing. But okay, so that's it for today. I will see you next week. And until then, bye for now.